Boys Club.
Is it called Boys Club because my apartment looks like a boy lives in it?
I wouldn't say a boy lives in it. I would say a boy is kidnapped somewhere in here.
Boys Club.
We're everything. We're true crime. We're World Star Hip Hop.
We're World Star Hip Hop. We're Netflix reviews.
Stories of the day.
Boys Club.
Listen.
Yeah, do it. We're on iTunes. We're on Spotify. I think. No, we're not. And on Google Play. Nobody gives a shit.
Boys Club.
Boys Club podcast. Now with 90% more sound clips of black people.
Boys Club.
Touch me and I'll sue.
Here at Intoxicated Reviews, we intellectually dissect the art of cinema, scene by scene. Here's some clips.
All he is. It's just a fucking big wooden doll full of cum, chasing kids around.
You look up guys who poop in a bag. Because I think that's where you'll find him. Because he is hurt.
It's probably just in your search history anyway, isn't it?
This movie fucking blows.
So don't forget to subscribe to Intoxicated Reviews on all places you find podcasts. Except Spotify. We're working on it.
Nope. Cruise ship. We're literally like right beside.
Am I bombing it?
Do not take product if you are hypersensitive.
Oh, hey, Internet. Welcome back to the Intoxicated Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah. This is a weekly comedy variety talk show where I sit down and interview comedians, characters, and various guests, and we shoot the shit about life while having a drink or two. I have an amazing episode for you guys this week. This is a great one. This week's guest is touring comic Tyler Morrison. He was last weekend's headliner at Yuk Yuks, and I saw his set on the Thursday night, and I just knew I had to talk to this guy. Tyler has a bunch of credits behind him. He has done multiple comedy festivals. He did the roast of Ron Jeremy. He's also been featured on CBC's The Debaters and tons of other podcasts. In addition to his own podcast, he has a podcast called Fight Stories, where he interviews various people about different fight stories that they've had in their lives. For this episode, I actually went to Tyler where he was staying. It's just easier that way sometimes. The Sad Girl Studios is not the most conveniently located for downtown comedy clubs, but it got me out of the apartment. It got me out of the Sad Girl Studios because, oh boy, it's been sad here lately. So it was actually really nice to get out and go on location again, which is something that I used to do a lot of. So it was a good change. But all that by way of saying there's actually no video episode this week. It will just be audio only. But regardless of that, this is a fucking fantastic episode. We talk a lot about what Tyler calls landing the ship. In other words, recovering from a set where you're dealing with a bunch of hecklers, a bunch of people being rude and confrontational during your set. It's quite interesting. And he has a lot of amazing insight into comedy. We also talk about cancel culture on this episode, which is very relevant right now with all the stuff going on with SNL and the firing of one of the comics they chose to be on the show. So it was a great discussion. I hope you guys enjoy. Rate, review, and subscribe wherever you find podcasts. Follow Intoxicated on social media. It is Intoxicated Podcast on Facebook and Instagram, on Twitter at @in_toxicated. Intoxicated also has a Patreon. That's patreon.com/intoxicated. And our YouTube channel, of course, is youtube.com/intoxicated. So check that out. There's tons of video content on there. So make sure to hit subscribe on YouTube as well. You can also follow Tyler Morrison on Instagram. His handle is TylerMorrison123 and his website is tylermorrison.ca. Bunch of information on there, including tour dates. If you get the chance to see this guy live in a city near you, you need to do it. That's about all, you guys. I hope you enjoy this awesome episode with Tyler Morrison. Oh yeah, I picked up, this is like, I'm not usually a beer person,
Connoisseur,
but I do love the Garrison.
Oh, cool.
It's the one beer that, mind you, like I never drink more than one or two beer. I feel like it makes me just like sloppy and gassy and gross. Which might be the case for guys too. I don't know, but guys just drink them way more.
I like stuff that I just like to constantly be drinking.
Yeah. Oh, you're on the right podcast. This kind of started out of drinking, so you're on the right show.
Perfect.
Oh my gosh, guys. Welcome back to the Intoxicated Podcast. I'm here on location, which is different and awesome. It actually got me out of the house, and it made me feel really good about it, actually. Like,
Right on, yeah.
'Cause
It's a
normally-
beautiful day in the neighborhood.
it's gorgeous. We're in natural lighting for once. And I'm here at the West. Oh, actually, I shouldn't say where we are, should we?
I don't know. We don't want the fans.
We are at an undisclosed location with Tyler Morrison.
Hey,
Oh
thanks
my
for having me on.
goodness. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for making the time to come on. This
No
is
problem.
very exciting. So you're headlining Yuk Yuks this weekend.
Yeah.
And how has it been going?
It's been good so far. Hopefully tonight will be even better than the other 2 nights, and I'll get invited back.
Did you find that the Thursday night was a little weird?
Thursday night
That was the one I went to.
Yeah, they were a little quiet. It was a smaller group, so I think that in the smaller groups they're afraid to laugh at touchier subjects because, the bigger the group, the more anonymous you are. And so the bigger the crowd, it's always better for dark jokes and stuff like that.
You're more likely to hit the right people.
That's right, yeah.
Because you have a larger sample size.
Exactly. And just people are less nervous to laugh in big groups as opposed to when people can see you laughing at stuff that maybe you shouldn't laugh at.
That's so true.
That's how it kind of,
It's so interesting to me, like being an audience member and sort of knowing that comedians are pushing the boundaries. And I love it and I respect it because I can kind of step outside and go, this is a joke.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like that's the main problem with so many people when they get offended by comedy. They don't put themselves in the mind frame of, this is a fucking joke. This isn't truth. This isn't you know what I mean?
That's right. I always say that if you get offended by comedy, you're too late because, we're making fun of stuff that's happened in the world and it's bad things that have happened. We're just reacting to that and you're reacting to our reaction.
Exactly.
So where were you when that hit the news?
And you're saying the things that people might be too afraid to say themselves.
Yeah, and I think the idea of comedy is to release the tension of real life things, and that's it's to relieve the tension, and that's all we're trying to do.
Right.
And when you play with tension in your act, the payoff's usually a bigger laugh. So the darker the joke, the more tension that you build up, the bigger the punchline is if you hit.
If you hit, yeah.
And it's a risk though if you don't hit, because it could go south.
Could go the other way. But oh my gosh, you have some pretty damn good credits behind you. So you've done SiriusXM, you've done multiple comedy festivals, you did the roast of Ron Jeremy.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
It was quite an experience.
When was that? I remember when it happened, but I just can't remember the year.
I think it was 2015 when it happened, and it was really cool because the lineup on it a lot of comedians from that have gone on to become a little bit bigger than they were. So
who else was on there?
Well, Tony Hinchcliffe was hosting it, and he is just. He's got Kill Tony podcast, and he's a writer on the Comedy Central roasts and all that.
Okay.
So it's one of Joe Rogan's openers and stuff too. But he headlines. He had a Netflix special too. Hey, huge shout out to Tony Hinchcliffe.
Yeah, we'll show you plugging your shit.
Yeah, I just give him a huge plug.
It's free advertising.
Yeah,
really.
so he was on there, and then Andrew Schultz, who
Right.
is blowing up right now. It's really cool to see that.
And I think I read in your bio because I didn't see your whole set, but you got a standing ovation or something.
I did, yeah,
at the roast.
Yeah, so I was up first because I was probably the least well-known comedian on the dais, and but they know the people who are involved. They knew that the first spot is the two best spots on the roast are going first or last. Right before the main person does the rebuttal.
You got to start strong and end strong.
Yeah, so I was cool with. I love being first because you get the fresh topics. Everyone's gonna make a whole bunch of big dick jokes about Ron, but you get to do the first ones, right?
And you're setting the tone.
Yeah,
you're getting people pumped. Mm-hmm. And how much time do you have typically on a roast like that?
On roasts like that, usually they usually don't tell you how long to do, but it's I think I did 7 minutes is
I guess because they can edit it down or whatever.
Sometimes guys will go long though, and if a guy kills for a long set on a roast, it actually does take away, even if that guy kills, it takes away momentum from the other act. So that's something that I never really focused on when I was first starting roast, like sometimes I would do that, and it's like you got to be a little bit more respectful of the dais when that happens. I've seen guys that I love do it too, like where it's just, you're doing all these great jokes, but like if you go and do 20 minutes, you're gonna hurt the other people's chances, right?
It's like wearing white to a wedding.
Yeah, it's exactly the Billy Idol effect.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So that's crazy.
So yeah, I think I did 7 minutes on that one. But the other thing is why guys will go long is because you've never tested those jokes out before. So because it's all new jokes, so you don't really know how long it is. But after doing so many, I kind of have
I never even thought of that because there is no way to test it because you're a subject.
Yeah,
it's not like you could go to an open mic and be like, I'm roasting.
Some guys do that though.
Do
but
they?
I never do it. Like I know if a joke's gonna work before I even take it to the stage. Like for the most part, I have a good
understanding of that because you've been doing this a long time. You've been doing this. You said 17 years. 17. How old are you?
35.
Wow.
So I started when I was 18.
Holy shit.
I was just in college, and then I did the Humber College comedy program. And
okay, I've heard of this.
First week they throw you up on stage at Yuk Yuks in Toronto, and it was a sold out show. Like I think there was like 300 people there, and it was just wild. Like,
is that a common? So that Humber comedy, what was it, like a certificate or a degree or
it's a degree? Yeah,
degree?
It's 2 year
2 year course. Is that something that's common around the world? Like,
no, it's
really
like the only one of its kind in universities and colleges, I think, as far as I know. But phenomenal. So for me, like, it was a really it was a great experience because it's like you get put into this like vacuum of creative people who you end up making friendships with and that lasts for a long time in the business. I mean, the year that I was in was like a dynasty year at Humber College for comics. There's no less than 10 comics that are working professionally still today.
Yeah.
And they're
and
all
Travis Lindsay
he went there. Yeah. So I mean, and Nathan McIntosh, who you
hopefully we'll have
are
on
a
soon.
fan of, and I am too. He was there 2 years after I was in, and then
crazy.
Yeah, another a local Nova Scotian, Nick Beaton. He was in my year. So Nick and I, we were in college together. And
that's so interesting. So like, do you think having that kind of formal training, I put in, like, it's kind of hands-on training in a way too, because they're throwing you on stages.
Yeah.
Did that give you something that like you think is very valuable in terms of comedy?
What I think it did was it made me really realize what I wanted in comedy, because you do so many different things. It's a well-rounded program where you're doing improv and sketch and stand-up, and there's all different things that you figure out, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, maybe I don't want to do sketch. I want to do I know that I want to do stand-up after trying all these things. But it's still like nice to have the insight into the business that you get from that too. And and it's almost like like X-Men. It's like the school for gifted.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, they're probably introducing you to like heavy hitters in the industry, and
like it's just kind of that first taste of it. But they have people who have been professionals that are teaching there. I mean, like Robin Duke, I think, still teaches there, and she was on Saturday Night Live.
Oh, wow.
So when I was there, it was Joe Flaherty from SCTV and Happy Gilmore and all that. Like, he was one of the artists in residence there. So it was it was a really cool experience, I found. And these the comedians that I happened to be in the same year as, they've we've all grown up together, right? So. And you just look at who I think when it first started too, like, I know on like the comedy circuit, Humber comics weren't treated very good by the comics who thought they're like the real comics, and like there's a lot of hostility towards us, and I don't think that the other comics knew like that I was in Humber,
right?
So like I never took any shit, but like I'd hear them like bashing Humber
Interesting.
comics.
Do they think it was like? What do you think it was about people coming just because they could?
Yeah, it's just
afford to go or something.
Maybe or just the stand-up purists. You don't need that or whatever. They think that, but then if you look at who's come out of that program, I mean, Nikki Payne. K. Trevor Wilson from Letterkenny. It's just like one after another. And Steph Tolev was there. Like, she's killing it. Like, all these people. Oh, even Nathan. what's his Nathan Fielder
Oh,
from
really?
Nathan For You. He was a Humber alumni.
No way.
So you see all
Holy
these comics come out of there, and every year there's maybe like 10 or 20 that stick around. It just pumped so many new comedians into the Toronto scene.
Right.
And if you look at what Toronto's become from back then, in the 17 years that I started, the scene is so much bigger.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of the best comedy scenes in the world. Like it really is a good. You can get up every night.
It's a mecca.
Yeah, it is. I think what it really helped with was these comedians that weren't from the city, from small towns, that wanted to come to Toronto and try comedy. It was like an excuse that, they could tell their parents, well, at least I'm getting my degree in this too. And and it's like it plugs you into a social network of like-minded people right away.
Yeah.
So instead of coming to the city by yourself and going out and going to those open mics can be kind of lonely and maybe like intimidating.
I've heard I've never seen them, but I've heard about the open mics in Toronto being quite like you'll have like 30 or 40 comics there and like maybe 5 regular people.
I mean, it happens. Yeah.
That's tough.
That's like any scene, I think. But just the fact that like it kind of, people talk about safe spaces and all that. Well, Humber was kind of that like that safe space for people who, they're not from the city. But this is their first time there. Now they're, getting their feet wet that way. And then they start going out and doing the shows. Or you have people that you go out to the shows together that you meet there.
Right.
So I thought it was really, a cool experience overall.
That's amazing. And how long do you think, like, there's this talk of finding a comedy voice or finding your tone, or how long do you think it took you?
It's interesting to say because I think I knew kind of who I was as a comic right away. Like I was always kind of like that. But if I go back and watch my old stuff, I was definitely leaning on my writing as my X factor because that was like my number one, like my top skill. And I think I could get away with like just, the jokes were good, so I didn't have to be a great performer.
Right.
But then eventually, through stage time, your persona catches up to that.
Right.
And once your other tools catch up to your X factor, at least, it's always going to be your X factor. But once the other stuff catches up, that's when you kind of become a full comic. And that didn't really happen for me until about 2015, I would say.
Interesting, yeah.
Because like I look back, my first album, I was very happy with it, and I still, I love the album. But I have video of it and stuff. I was watching a clip from that, and I was like, I haven't tapped into what my persona really is like now.
Right.
I didn't have that, so I'm delivering the jokes a little bit differently. And it's still the same, like coming from the same place, and the jokes are like all getting laughs, and it's going great. But
cruise ship. We're literally like right beside.
Am
a
I
bunch
bombing?
Of cruise ships. Can you imagine if they played that sound effect every time?
Every time, no, yeah. Oh, that's so good. Yeah, just an air horn.
That's so interesting, though. So how many albums do you have?
So I have 4.
Oh, wow.
I put out my
Holy
first
shit.
one is called Armed and Hammered, and I did that in 2012. And then, actually, it was 2013 that one came out. And then 2015, I did one called Impolitely Canadian. And then last year, I put out 2, Savage and Comedy Exile. So I put those all out. And each album I find is like, once you complete that, you become better as a comic. It's just like this bookmark. You know what I mean? Like they're just like
I've heard that you
that.
kind of do those. And are you someone who like you don't always go back to the jokes that you did on the album because they're done, or do you revisit them? You revisit them sometimes.
Sometimes, like if, for example, if I have a joke that like, I'll do kind of like a greatest hits when I'm doing the clubs, and then I
like that,
and then I bring new stuff in. Like I'll have like 5 to 10 minutes of like or sometimes longer, like 15 minutes of newer stuff that I'm wheeling through that isn't on an album.
Right.
But then I'll package that around, my best stuff that I've done over the years. So, but then if I'm doing a new album, then I got to start, just doing all new stuff all at once. And I did that. I recorded another one last weekend in Toronto.
Oh, holy crap.
And I'd never done all that material together in a row until that week. Like I've done all the material, or most of the material I've done already, but I hadn't ever done it without my best stuff around it.
Right.
So it was like, when I put it all together on the Wednesday, I was like, holy shit, this is like maybe the most offside material that I've ever done.
Yeah.
Like together in one package. Like it is like, it's just relentless.
Oh, shit.
And it's like the pacing and everything. It's just, I don't know. When you hear it, you'll know what I'm talking about, but it was crazy. And then I had, so I did the Wednesday, and then the Thursday night, the Wednesday was a small crowd. It was kind of like Thursday here. And then the Thursday night is a bit bigger, and it went good. And then the Friday night, one of my good friends who's a really funny comic, Rob Bebnick, he has one of the best closing bits. He was on before me, and like this bit is one of the hardest bits I think anyone would ever have to follow. And I was like, fuck, if I can't follow it with this stuff, I don't even know if I want to record on Saturday. And I was able to go and have a really good show, and like it went good. So I was like, okay, we're doing this, right? And then the Friday night ended up being the best night of the weekend. And I ended up, I was only recording on the Saturday, but the Saturday crowd was pretty good for the first little bit. And then I think I walked 20 people during the taping.
So this is interesting to me, because when I came to because I had heard that you were great through Andrew Vaughn and multiple people. So when I went on, a little ego shout out there.
Sweet.
Well, from what and it's interesting because you talked about the writing. Mm-hmm. Everyone was always like, he's such a good writer. Mm-hmm. He's a great joke writer. So I was very excited to see you. But when I came, after Kirsten was done, who's a good friend of mine, Kirsten Finch, we met outside in the lobby because we were just chatting a bit about plans to go see a movie. But she's like, I was going to take off, but I want to I want to stay and see Tyler because, like, I hear he walks people all the time, and I really want to see this happen.
That's a good reputation.
And he said something about, she said something like that you walked 8 people at one point. I don't remember what it specifically was, but I was like, ooh, I'm excited. And I got excited.
Before the show?
Yeah, before you came on. It was during Dan's set. Sorry, Dan.
Okay. Because I don't think I walked anyone this weekend, though.
That's good.
But... yeah, there was 20 people at least during the taping, and a guy in a wheelchair. They had to carry him out. Like, it's not like wheelchair accessible, so it's like in a basement, right? So they had to carry him out. He's yelling all the way up. Oh, it was crazy.
During your recording?
Oh yeah, and then some 70-year-old man starts screaming at me, and like he wanted to fight me after the show.
Wow.
It was,
So how do you, when that happens, when you're like, and especially if you're recording an album where it's like like this is something that is being published, this is something that's going out. How do you react to that when you see that happen?
So the wheelchairs thing, and I feel bad for the individual, because it was just a matter of, I think they weren't ready to be out in public. Like hearing, they thought they'd be ready for dark comedy. Right. They thought that that's what they wanted, but they weren't ready for it. And it was like, I think I handled because he yelled, like he heckled me, and then I burned him or whatever. Of course. And then everyone was laughing. I don't think I went too far with it or anything like that. Like he said, I don't know, I was doing some wheelchair jokes, and he yelled out like, "You don't like my fucking wheelchair?" And I was like, "Oh, you're in a wheelchair? Stand up so we can see you." And then and that was that's all I said. Like, I didn't hammer him after that.
That's not that bad.
No, it was just really quick, and it got a good pop and whatever. But then the other one, like the old guy, when he flipped out, I don't think I handled that too well, because it was usually you want to be funny, and you want to be in control of the I want everything to be funny. But in that situation, it was different than the other guy, because there's 4 of them, and they just were scowling at me the whole show. And I hate that, because they're just trying to have a good time. Like, if you're doing edgy stuff, you get away with a lot more if you're having fun. Yeah. And it's hard to be having fun when you got people just sending hostile vibes towards
consistently.
You. Just leave. You know what I mean? That's.
I was gonna say, would you rather them leave or stay?
Yeah, I'd rather them leave.
Fuck that.
I wouldn't even probably mock them on the way out. I'd be happy that you made a decision to
exit the room and take your negative energy out of there.
Have some class, you know what I mean? If you don't like what you see, write a bad Yelp review. Everyone else does. But it was because I was facing that all night, when he started like yelling at me, and he was coming at me in like a confrontational way, like where it was like nothing I say, even if it's funny, is gonna like. He was interrupting me, like, so I just kind of flipped on him.
Oh, that's the interrupting. And people who think that they can just insert themselves in,
and
like
it's
a conversation.
It's a taping. There's cameras everywhere. They know it's being recorded for something. I flipped my switch, and I realized, I was like, oh fuck, I'm not being funny right now. But I don't think, and I also was like, the crowd doesn't know that these people have been like scowling at me all night. So like, I know that this isn't going to go to a funny place.
Right.
I just need to, let this guy know that he's a piece of shit and he can fucking leave.
Yeah.
And then, but I got a laugh at the end, and the crowd was all on my side. But it was, I personally don't feel like I did a good job there. Like that.
It's so tricky to handle because you don't want to lose the crowd.
That's right. And usually like you come out on top of those things. And I just felt like I didn't look, I don't know, I don't think I did a good job there. But in the same end, I was trying to do a newer bit that I was putting on. And so I'm like trying to concentrate on the material and making sure that, so he probably like interrupted me at the worst point that I could have been interrupted at, because I was off guard. It was like 32 minutes into the thing.
Oh, so that's it was like right at the, because you're just getting
I'm building
to
that closer momentum, and then and so that happened. And then anyway, they stayed, like after the whole thing, they stayed. No one kicked him out because the staff were dealing with the wheelchair guy and his whole thing. And then there's another like 10 women that got up and were storming out. Like it was like all happening at once. It was fucking chaos.
Holy shit.
I don't know what the cameras picked up, or like if there's any footage of any of this going on. If there is, I'll probably keep some of it in. Like
I was just gonna say that would be an interesting thing to keep in.
I know. I'll keep some in if we got it. I really don't know what they picked up. But at the same end, it was just, I was just trying to get the show back on track.
Absolutely.
And then I get back into my material, and then another guy gets up, and he was getting kicked, or he was leaving because he got cut off. And so he stops, and he's like, I just want to let you know that you're fucking hilarious, man. This guy up here is a fucking idiot. And then everyone's like laughing. I'm like, well, there's a positive heckle for once, right? Like, where were you 5 minutes ago? So he screwed up another bit that I was doing. You know what I mean? So like that got...
And the intentions are the drunk intentions are good.
Oh yeah, I was laughing.
But it does screw up the momentum.
It totally, yeah. So then I had to go back into like a new bit after that. And then I landed the ship. Like it closed out great, and then as I'm walking off stage, the old guy starts like yelling at me again, and so like I just blew him a kiss, and I knew that would drive him crazy, and then I just went into the green room.
Ding ding.
And so he was trying to fight me.
The bell is for an I agree or good point, or
okay.
It's like a yes queen bell. That's hilarious.
Yeah,
wow.
My friend was saying that he was trying to find me, and his wife was like grabbing him by the arm and trying to drag him out. Like, I don't want to fight an old man.
Did it take you a while in comedy to get that comfortable with potentially walking people or dealing with walking people? Like, is that something that took you a while? Because I can imagine, like, as a comic, the first time that happens, it must be like...
Trying to think,
kind of jarring.
I was always cool with it. I think
that's good.
That whole situation was very stressful, like because you're recording, there's money on the line, like you don't know if you're gonna get a good taping, you know what I mean. You want
absolutely.
So when the wheels start coming off like that, it's like. Yeah, like you're going to battle with people basically. It was confrontational. That's
insane.
So like it's like you feel like you've been in a fight afterwards. Like it's like really like it's tough. And then like again, like I was away all week from my family, so like you know what I mean.
Right.
Like it's like
you're just like I want to get this fucking done.
It's an isolating experience when stuff like that happens. So like you want every show. Ideally, I want everyone to have a good time.
Yeah.
I want to take people into like places maybe they never thought that they'd laugh at. You know what I mean? We're out of their comfort zone, but again, it's all comedy and it's all with the design to make you laugh and have fun.
Which is so fascinating to me that you say that because the girls that I was sitting beside on Thursday definitely didn't like some of your jokes.
Which ones? Which girls? The cunts that were sitting beside?
They were. Well, the other thing was too is that they were quite chatty too, and I was like, "This is borderline like just but the good thing was they were like closer to the back.
So I couldn't hear
So
them.
I don't think that it was too distracting. It was distracting for me because I was sitting right beside them and I was just like, shut the fuck up. Like nothing bugs me more than people who talk during comedy shows. Like, shut the fuck up. You're here to see a show. You paid $15 to see a show. This is the other thing. I'm like, are you paying $15 to come chat?
Yeah, that's the thing, right?
Go chat at a bar.
People get a couple drinks in them and they don't know how to act in public. And
that was the thing. They were definitely like, I would say in their 30s, probably like working people who were just letting loose, like white women, you know, chatty Cathy's.
Oh, my favorites.
That's who they were. And it was the joke you had about the school shooting.
Oh, yeah.
Which I thought was hilarious.
The joke, just for the people watching, is I say I'm about 50-50 on school shootings. Hear me out. On one hand, I'm against them. I got 2 kids. But on the other hand, my wife's a teacher. So
it's so dark and uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But like, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate jokes like that. But like she actually just like went silent and then she went, oh, I didn't find that funny, under her breath. But then there was other jokes you did that I found her laughing quietly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there was definitely things.
They're trying to process what they. Yeah. A lot of people are having a tough time coming to terms with what they're allowed to laugh at in public and what they are. Yeah. Again, what they don't want people seeing them laughing at something like that's maybe morally, reprehensible.
Right.
And it's there's like this never-ending quest to be more woke than everyone else. I don't even like the term woke. I think it's so lame.
It's a stupid. Yes, it is fucking lame. I actually do totally agree. Which is why, like, specifically, I wanted to pick your brain about the SNL stuff.
Yeah, sure.
Because that's been on my mind too.
Yep.
I haven't like spoken about it or like published my opinion about it because I'm not a comedian. I'm also a white woman. Yeah.
That doesn't matter. You're qualified to your opinion like anyone else.
Yeah.
And you can't let people, try and put that on you or like people think that you can't say anything because you're a white guy, you can't say anything about, you know what I mean, like when did we all, if you want equality, why aren't we all treating each other with equality?
Oh, that's very true too.
So I think that's bullshit. Shane Gillis is the comedian who he was hired for Saturday Night Live and then he was released by Saturday Night Live from the gig, which is too bad. He's a friend of mine.
Really?
Yeah, we've had him on my podcast.
Oh my gosh.
And I did the Atlanta Laughing Skull Comedy Festival with him, and that's where I met him.
Okay.
So he's a friend of my co-host, John Moses. So when I went down to Atlanta, John's like, oh, you got to meet my buddy Shane. You guys will get along, right? And he's the first guy I actually ran into when I was at the bar. At the comedy club, you go and just register and get your like little swag bag, and
fun.
He's the first guy that I met there.
Oh,
and,
really?
We just started drinking right away. Great dude.
That's what I've heard. Yeah,
he is a really nice guy, and he's a funny comic. And I guess the issue that I have with what's happening is people want to take away the ability for comedians to try and fail. You should be able to fail with a joke. If your intention is to be funny all the time, if you're a comic and you're on a podcast and you're maybe being a little reckless, you don't want to have to second guess everything you say, because if you start second guessing and filtering yourself everywhere you say, like, true comedy won't be born. Like, eventually, there's nothing greater than being in a comedy club or watching a podcast that's live and just seeing someone tap into that, like, that free flow of ideas and expression.
Yes.
That is like, that this isn't scripted. That this guy's just tapped into this.
It's raw.
Into this wave, right?
Yeah.
And it's improv, but in a way, like, yeah, it's definitely like the improv part of stand-up. Well, eventually, if people start second-guessing everything they do and say, it's going to become very restricting for people to do what we do. And I think, have I said shitty things? Has Gillis said shitty things? And everyone makes a shitty joke or a bad joke, but, like, who fucking cares? Quit being such babies about it. It doesn't really hurt you, you know?
There was a great tweet that was like, I wish presidential, like, political people were held to the same standard as comedians, because look at Trudeau, who just did something shitty too in his past. He's not getting fired.
No.
It's like, and
he's young and dumb and did something stupid. And
I think that's another thing too is being young and dumb and making a mistake.
Did he learn from it? I think he probably did.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's no, I think if there's no ability to learn from your mistakes or whatever, like there's no forgiveness, then what the fuck?
What are we
it's just
doing?
What are we doing? It's so weird because maybe Gillis made some off-color remarks, but I know his intentions probably to be funny in that situation, and and you just get try and be funny the next time. You know what I mean?
And literally, if we cancel, and I hate cancel culture.
It canceled.
We cancel every single comedian who has said something a little edgy or offensive or a little offensive. We wouldn't have comedy because everyone has said something offensive, and especially with the fact that a lot of comedians have podcasts, and even me, who's not a comedian, I have 130 episodes. Jesus Christ! Like I don't know what I said in episode 5.
Yeah.
I don't know what I said in episode 9. Like I don't really want something to happen to me where I'm close to achieving my dream, and then someone drudges up a clip from
I'll never
years
get
ago.
Saturday Night Live. I know that.
You trying for it?
I gave up a long time ago.
Right?
But no, it's just also these people that want to take people down. Like their intentions are more malicious than the person who told the off-color joke is what I think.
Yes.
It's like, why are you so jealous of this person that you have to bring them down? If you see what happened with Gillis, it was fucking bullshit because he got the gig, it was announced, and within it must have been an hour?
It was.
Was it an hour or two?
I don't think he had 24. It was it was less than 24 hours that the tweet came out.
It was
with
about
the clip.
4 hours later, maybe sooner.
insane.
Someone had that loaded in the chamber. How does that little weasel, is it Sam Simmons? How does that little fucking weasel get a hold of that clip so fast? I guarantee you he isn't watching Shane's podcast. It's some little dweeb from the Philly comedy scene probably that was jealous of a guy who's coming up. The one thing I'll say that is this about comics. There's a lot of comics and there's a lot of great alternative comic. I love every type of comic. There's a bunch of different, that's what makes comedy great is the different perspectives. But there's a lot of people that don't like alpha male comics doing well because you see a guy like Gillis who's an alpha male. He reminds them of the fucking jock that picked on them
in high school.
They see their bully in a guy like Shane.
Right.
And Shane isn't a bully, but they see that in him and they resent him. And so when he gets the number one nerd dream job, Saturday Night Live, which I mean, and there's a lot of nerds in comedy, and some of them are fucking great, and some of them are jealous little weasel gatekeepers, and they want to stop you, and they want to stop guys like that. They don't want to see their bully doing better than them. They got into comedy probably because a guy that he reminds them of picked on him, and comedy's their little cool thing that they can do to be cool now, and then they see a guy that reminds them of that person doing well, because there's two types of great comedians: natural born leaders and total outcasts, and Gillis is a natural born leader, so that audiences want to follow the natural born leaders, so those guys can come in and hit the ground running usually. And then total outcasts are the most unique people, like the Stephen Wrights and those type of comics. People are drawn to them because it's a little bit different. You know what I mean? So those are the two ways that you stand out, and then anyone else in between has to really figure it out, work really hard, know how to excel. And so a guy like Gillis becomes a big target when he's coming in, and he's only 10 years into comedy and getting all this heat. I mean, he's on Legion of Skanks and The Bonfire and all this, and those guys took a shine to him because they knew he was good and they liked him. And
that was the thing. When the announcement came on, I was seeing comedians that I follow wishing him congratulations.
So I was so pumped.
And he's so funny, and this is so awesome. This is his dream. And then Shane did not even get to celebrate.
No. They wanted that taken away so fast. And I mean, it's too bad. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what else to say. The apology will never be good enough for these people.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, right?
You can apologize, but your apology, no matter what, will never be good enough for these people because they don't really want an apology. They want to fucking tear you down and move on to the next one. And move on to the next one. I really hope that Shane parlays this into a bigger thing. You know,
Yes.
like because he's got his fans and he's worked hard for them, and
Absolutely.
And you know, I don't like seeing anyone get taken down for comedy. You know, like for if you're podcasting, you're basically free flowing.
Free flowing.
You know what I
Yep.
mean? And sometimes you say something shitty, and sometimes you don't.
And I won't lie. I mean, the clip wasn't great.
No, it was hard to defend.
It was
tough.
tough.
It's a hard clip to defend.
Yes, it is.
I mean, it really is. But so again, you can't necessarily defend the clip, but you got to defend the process of free flow and speaking. You know, because
Yeah.
I think
what
that's what it is. So yeah, like, am I proud of every joke that I've made or every off-color remark? Absolutely not. Like, and I'm sure he isn't either. But
Yeah.
you know, you try and be better. Everything we do is to try and become better at comedy and funnier.
And that's why a lot of comedians have podcasts.
That's
Because
right.
it helps them stretch that muscle.
Well, if you look at Bill Burr, how did he get so good? He developed that stream of consciousness just from talking, long form, and then he pulls the best stuff out of that. Like, he knows when he hits a wave.
Yeah.
And he surfs it. There was a video of, I think it was the election night in the States when Trump won. It was all the comics at the Comedy Store, and it's like Jim Jeffries, Doug Stanhope, Bill Burr, Joe Rogan. I think Tony Hinchcliffe was on. All these guys, like top, Sarah Tiana, I think, was on. There's a whole bunch of like really top-notch comedians, and they all just sit back and let Bill Burr just run the floor.
Right.
No one is like that powerful and
Of a
like
force, yeah.
and can just talk. Like, it's like
it's a gift. It truly is.
It's like when LeBron's coming down the court, everyone gets the fuck out of the way because he's
Right.
going to run right over you and take it right and just dunk it in your face. That's what Bill Burr became from being able to express himself on his podcast and free flow like that.
Yes.
And if everyone's second guessing what they're saying, you know,
And it's like, you know,
it stops
I think the
being
reason
good.
I'm a little like upset about it is because like I do it too. I'm not a comedian, but I do this podcast where I sit down for 2 hours every week with somebody, and and I know that it is just that.
Yeah.
Like a free flowing conversation. So like
yeah.
these people who are criticizing it, it's like, have you ever had your conversations recorded?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah, exactly.
And I bet you if that you did, there would be some bad stuff in there too.
Everyone's done and everyone's
Right?
shitty.
That's the thing.
We're all
Everyone's
shitty.
Everyone is.
Everyone's so shitty, and comedians are the guys and girls. They lay it out there. Like we share our deepest, darkest thoughts with you guys.
Yeah.
In hopes of connecting with you and making you go, oh, you know,
Oh, that's true.
I've done
Or,
that too.
yeah,
you feel a little bit better about being shitty because of us, guys.
Absolutely.
You little shitheads.
Yeah, shitheads.
Well, that's why Louis C.K. got so popular as a
Uh-huh.
comic, because that's what he tapped into, like those shitty thoughts and things that he did that he knows other people have those thoughts, and they
Yeah.
connected. You know, like his bit about my kids are assholes. Like,
Exactly.
he was kind of the guy that took that, you know, to the bank. And
Even with him, like, do I like that he jerked off in front of women? Nah. Do I think he should have his career ruined? No.
he should be allowed to perform, and it's up
Absolutely.
to the consumer to choose whether they go to his show or not. That's all it is.
Absolutely. And if you're offended, just
Yeah.
don't go.
You have a choice whether, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
As a consumer, you have a choice. And I don't think destroying someone's livelihood should be, you know, your choice.
And
But-
it's certainly, do you think it's like this day and age too? Like, because if you think of now, like, mind you, like, my geeky note over comedy is fairly new, but,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I know that the greats have also been quite offensive, and no one's coming for them yet. So do you think that
Cosby.
there was something about, do you think that there was something about, like, way back when comics could be a little more edgy and it wouldn't, like, is it 2019
well,
that's doing this, do you think, or?
what it is there's everyone has a voice now. I think there's a lot to reach a lot of people. To reach a lot of people back then, you had to have a talent or a credential, and you had to be qualified to get there. You know what I mean? You had to be exceptional at what you did to have a big platform.
Right.
Now now everyone can have a voice. Everyone
That's
can
true.
have a platform.
You can just make a podcast. Anyone can have a
That's right.
podcast and get
And
fans.
so it works both ways. It's good and bad, because we can get out there. You know, a comic who's unknown can become known overnight.
Yeah.
Look at Andrew Schultz and what he's done with YouTube and all of his, like he blew up so fast because he had that platform. Now, back in the day, you have to go through the channel of, you'd have to wait in line for your opportunity, or if a gatekeeper didn't like you, maybe wouldn't. A lot of good comics probably got left on the cutting room floor because of things they did off stage, maybe had a reputation for partying or whatever, or just someone doesn't like you, and it's that simple. But now it's a little bit easier, so it works in our favor in a good way. But on the same end, every single person who, a lot of people want to criticize, and a lot of people, think that they are qualified to tear people down, and guess what? You're not. Like a lot of people, a lot of people are fucking shitheads, and those people shouldn't even be allowed to vote.
Well, and I mean, like, I don't really watch SNL or.
Yeah. Well, neither did all the people that took Shane Gillis down, too. They don't give a fuck about Saturday Night Live.
Well, I mean, like, from what I understand, there's been some pretty racist skits in the past, and it's, I don't know. Don't throw, what's the phrase?
Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Maybe, or maybe like don't throw rocks at glass houses. I don't really know what the cliche phrase is, but like look at yourself.
People in glass houses shouldn't throw.
There
stone.
It is.
The baby out with the bathwater. I don't even know what the fuck that means.
I don't even. That's very disturbing. Don't throw your baby out with bathwater.
So no, you're right. You're right though. It is a little bit of that, but I think it's a bigger conversation about why do we feel the need to show our moral superiority over other people. I mean, like that's what is with that, like the virtue signaling and the patting yourself on the back after you post what you think people, what you think people want you to say. This is the right thing to say. Taking the moral high ground, it's so fucking bullshit.
Right.
And I think it's because everyone has skeletons in their closet and they do that to like project this image. Why do you why is it always such a big scandal when like a big televangelical or like religious person or politician gets taken down, their dirty laundry gets aired out. You find out all the people that are projecting the squeaky clean image turn out to be the most deviant, like Bill Cosby.
Is anyone squeaky clean? Like that's
I don't
the thing.
think. I don't
like
think
maybe
so.
Tom Hanks.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, maybe.
If something comes out about him, then we're really fucked.
Yeah, maybe he stuck his finger up Hooch's ass during the taping of Turner and Hooch. Like maybe Tom's into some fucked up shit. No,
but it's just funny to me because I think people think that comedians want to offend, or want to hurt people, and it's like, no, motherfuckers, you're trying to make people laugh.
Yeah, I feel like
that's your end goal.
Trying to find light in dark topics, and that's kind of what the goal is, right? And it's relieving tension, and you build the tension and then you break it with the punchline, and I think part of it too, as an audience member or someone who like consumes comedy, like so much of when I laugh at more offensive jokes is me laughing at how ridiculous they are. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Oh yeah,
like because like I'm not a fan of animal abuse or anything like that. I hate it. That's like the number one thing I hate. But like, I will laugh at the ridiculousness of that joke.
Yeah. It's a
because again, you take yourself out of it.
Yeah,
it's a joke.
It's exactly.
But not a lot of people see it that way.
No,
there should be disclaimers on every comedy show. Reminder: you're here to see comedy.
I know they really do need that warning.
Right.
There's a really good book out right now. It's called White by Bret Easton Ellis. And
okay.
Do you know who he is? So he was the author of American Psycho and like Glamorama, Rules of Attraction. He wrote a nonfiction piece. This is his first like nonfiction novel that he put out, and it's all about I guess it's how everyone wants attention on social, or like the faux offended people, and like the
fake outrage.
Yeah, the fake outrage culture.
Yes.
Is essentially what it's about, and it is a really, really great book to check out. And he's been one of my favorite novelists. And then I was excited to read it, and I'm like, wow, this is like really good.
Shit, I'll have to check that out.
It's definitely a great incisive look into why people are being like this and what happened, with the Trump getting involved and the paranoia around, people picking their team and just being so dead set against Donald Trump and letting that consume themselves and just trying to get people canceled,
overtaking the comment sections.
Yeah, it's and just like Twitter and all that, and it's it's a really good look into that. Anyone that's interested in delving into a deep look into outrage culture, White by Bret Easton Ellis is a great book.
That is interesting. It's something I think about a lot, just because it does bug me. Especially when comedians like you guys are you're up there like bearing your souls every night.
Sometimes,
you know, like
it can be pretty crushing sometimes. Yeah.
So going back to the very beginning, so I'm
from Bracebridge, Ontario. So
were you born there?
No, I was born in Toronto, like Etobicoke, just it's part of the city.
Very nice. And you've been doing comedy a long time, but like we were talking about this last night after Yuks, but the idea that you chose to kind of live and settle outside of a main city.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting choice.
Yeah, I like coming to different cities and performing and in all that, but I also like the slower pace of a small town, and it's like almost like I go to work on the weekends, and then I come back and it's like really calm,
like a home base.
Yeah, my home base is, well, it's not that calm because I got 2 kids.
That's true.
But like it is, the setting is nice.
And you're home, like it's your home kind of thing.
Yeah, and I'm fortunate. My parents and my in-laws both live in the same town, so when I'm on the road, there's lots of help for my wife, who the kids are 4 and 1, so it's it's a busy time. You know what I mean? It's a lot to juggle. With me being on the road as much as I am. I mean, I'm not too bad with it. Like, I'm usually home during the week, which is nice. But then my wife works, and she comes home on the weekend, and she's looking after the kids the whole weekend. You know what I mean?
And 1 and 4, those are hectic ages. Yeah.
So, but yeah, having that family base is really, really important, I think. And like, if you have that type of a stable home life, it makes doing this a lot easier.
Yeah. Well, you need something to keep you sane if you're doing this.
I think so. Or something to take your mind off of it.
Right. But you like traveling around? Like
I do, because I never really toured a lot when I was younger. So I really just started kind of branching out a lot more, like 2012 type thing, like 2011. So like, now I'm just getting to see, like, this is my first time in Halifax. I've never even come out here.
This is your first time in Halifax?
First time ever in here and playing here. Yeah.
Wow. What do you think?
I love it. It's so nice. It's great.
Yeah, it's if you were here longer, I would definitely say to check out, like, just pop into the little open mics around the city, because it's quite, like, there's pretty much stuff every night of the week here.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I love jumping on, like, going to different comedy cities and checking out their scene. When I was in Edmonton, they have a really cool comedy scene out there. I got to do a bunch of their mics and just good comics. I love seeing these younger comics coming up and working out, and, like, just the camaraderie that they have in these smaller pockets. Toronto's a pretty busy,
huge.
Yeah, it's a big comedy community, but I love the small cities and their like tight little community, because you know that they got each other's backs. That's what you like to see
for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, there's always gonna be the weasels and the bullshit, but I mean, like, when it's like the real deal comics, they all for the most part respect each other. There's comics that, like, maybe I didn't like a guy coming up and he didn't like me, and then like 17 years later you realize, well, that guy's still doing it and I'm still doing it. It's like respect, you know what I mean? And like the comics who maybe don't have the same style, there's always the alt comics, and then there's the the club comics or whatever, and there's always been that little divide. But like the real deal alt comics, I love those guys and girls, and they like me, like we're friends. Like, we don't have that like petty bullshit. Like, it's like, I see what you're doing, and you're doing it. You're running your race, and I'm running mine. We're not affecting each other. You could go out and create anything you want in comedy, and have it be, and achieve it. You don't need to be hating on someone's act. If you're, of
course,
it's like there's room for everyone in this, and sometimes you see people get ahead, and you're like, I don't know why that happened, but did they take it away from you? Probably not.
Yeah, well, that's just it. And I think some of the best comedians are those who think critically and know, this style of comedy or what this person is doing might not be what I like or what I think is funny, but they're clearly doing something right.
Yeah. Yeah, like I book a comedy festival. I created a comedy festival when I was 23. It's called Cottage Country Comedy Festival, and we bring comedians up to my area, which is a great little tourist area. So it's a fun getaway for comedians and that. And one of the things I really learned is, like, if there's a comic that maybe it's not my favorite comic, but they kill with the crowd, like, I'm not just booking people to please me. Like, I'm booking for the audience too, right? So obviously there's comics that, like, it's not my cup of tea, but I know they kill. Like, if you know what I mean, like,
you've seen them, you've seen them make people laugh. Yeah. And it's not, and just because I don't like your comedy doesn't mean I don't like you. You know what I mean? If you're a professional and that, like, I mean, there's people that probably don't like my comedy, but, like, guys, don't dislike me. I'm a nice guy. Oh, you're such a... This is something that I encounter so much when I talk to comedians, because, like, I think that there's this, especially with males, not so much with females, but persona of everyone thinks they're an asshole, when really they're, like, the nicest people you'll
Comics
ever meet.
think that, yeah. I mean, it's... I thought it was funny. One of my good friends, his girlfriend told me she was afraid to meet me because she thought that I wouldn't be a nice guy. And,
oh, really?
And I was like, oh, because I am a dick on stage, and, like, I could certainly come across that way. But I try to be really nice.
I don't think you do, though, because I think sometimes, like if you say something edgy, like you'd follow it with, "I'm just kidding." Like, you actually say, like, "I'm just kidding," or, like, you'll say something like that.
Oh yeah,
every now and then.
Off stage or on stage, I try not to say that. But.
Yeah. Reminder, it's a joke.
Yeah, sometimes they need to know. So, like, sometimes the crowd
needs to
needs to
feel
know.
this way. Jeez, people. Just separate your thinking, I think, if you go to a comedy show a little bit, or try to, because you're stepping outside of real life, a little bit.
Suspend your reality, because it's like you watch offensive things on Netflix, and like you can watch a crime show about a murder and, like, a rape and, like, all this, like, terrible stuff, and, like, you're watching that and you're not yelling at your fucking TV screen, but you come to a comedy show and someone's making jokes about murder and rape and you're getting mad at them.
And they're just jokes about that.
It's just,
you're not doing that.
Exactly. So I don't know. People are very touchy these days, and it's certainly, there's an entitlement, I think, that has come along with because everyone's so used to being able to spout their opinions online. They think that they can spout them at the club. You know? There's a bit of that.
Yeah.
But, you get a couple drinks and you...
Okay, so can we talk about your show last night?
Yeah, I got a little hammered with my buddy Andrew Evans at the Henry House in the afternoon, and I came into the club, and they're like, "Listen, I don't know if we can put you on stage. Like, we've never seen a comedian this drunk before." I'm like, "Don't worry, boys." I'm like, "I fucking got this," and I did.
Oh my God.
I did pretty good, I'd say.
Wow. Wow. Well, is it something that you usually drink before a show? Like, just to kind of get
sometimes I don't. But, like, it just depends. Some of my biggest shows that I've ever done, I've been, like, blackout drunk. Like Ron Jeremy roast, I was probably blackout when I did that.
Really?
Yeah.
Blackout?
Like, pretty drunk, yeah.
Yeah?
Iron Sheik roast, the first one, I was absolutely wasted.
Holy fuck.
But
I guess that there is, you've been doing this for so long, like, it's like auto, like, kind of.
It kind of plays with my persona too, like, plays what, like, the drinking, my persona is a little bit like, it can help. Now, I'll say this, I would give back every one of my drunken kills to get back my drunken bombs, because there's nothing worse than bombing when you're drunk. You feel like such a piece of shit. You feel like you treated the audience bad. And young comics out there, don't follow the path of Unky TT, because it's a rocky road to redemption.
Do as he says, not as he does.
There was one I bombed in front of, like, there wasn't many people. There's like maybe 10 people there, but it was just such a harsh bomb. And Joey Fatone from NSYNC was in the crowd.
What the fuck?
And it was like, I was
Did you
just,
know he was there at the time?
yeah, I was hanging out
my
with him
God.
after. He's a fucking nice guy. Joey Fatone, what up, bro?
Shout
Give me
out.
a call when you're in Toronto shooting my big fat Greek wedding 10. That's what, they were doing a sequel.
Seriously?
Yeah. I think it was number 2 or something. But
Holy shit.
he
That's
was
so
there
funny.
with who was it? The lady who was in Austin Powers 3, I think. Robin Swallows was the character.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she was there with them, and like.
Oh my God.
So it was a weird,
so random.
It was a weird bomb. But we had my old podcast called Rude Dudes Podcast, and that's the one that'll get me canceled for sure.
Oh yeah, that's the one where there's some sound clips that they could find.
Yeah. I'm done. And then they were there shooting that, but we were drinking like all afternoon on our podcast. So and then that's what would happen is I'd be in Toronto and I'd be staying down, and then everyone would be like, "Hey, you want to come do our mic?" And then yeah, sure, but we were already like just gassed.
You're
up,
already
you know?
drinking all day.
Yeah. Just bopping around hammered. There's I had a girl come up to me at Comedy Bar in Toronto, and she's like, "Oh my God, you're our favorite comedian." I'm like, "What?" She's like, "We saw you performing one night here, and you were so drunk, but you were killing." And I'm like, "Oh, thank God I was killing." She's like, "You were falling into the wall and still landing the punchlines, and like no one could believe this was happening." I'm like, "Okay, I gotta
shit.
dial it back a bit."
Oh my God, I love that.
I won't
That's
be.
talent.
I'll be in fine form tonight. I won't be getting. It won't be like last night. I guarantee.
No, yeah.
But I did well last night.
That's fantastic.
For the record.
What's your relationship with booze like? Because this is a show that kind of origined out of drinking.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember? Because we're drinking beer today.
Yeah.
Is beer your go-to?
Beer's my go-to.
Drink?
I sometimes drink hard liquor, but I don't really very often. It's not my go-to. Beer has always been my thing. That's why I'm so out
And
of
it's
shape.
a Miller Lite, by
Miller
the way.
Lite, though.
Specifically.
I'm Mr. January in the Miller Lite calendar.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah,
Are
yeah.
you lying?
No, I'm dead serious.
What?
Yeah. I'm Mr. January. So it's the calendar's out. It's the real guy's calendar. But
Mr. January. But Miller Lite is your fave. Beer is your fave.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first? I asked this to a lot of guests. Do you remember the first time you ever got drunk? As a youngin'?
Yeah. I was. I'm trying to think. I would have been like actually drunk, like grade 9. We used to. My buddy Chris Joint and I used to always steal our parents' booze and drink in the woods when we were in like grade 7.
Hell
and 8.
yeah!
Grade 7 and 8, but like actually getting like really like drunk. Grade 9, I stole like a 6-pack of Molson Canadian from my dad. Like Molson Canadian was always like what he drank when I was growing up. So I would get into that. And I was. I've been partying pretty hard for a long time.
Yeah,
so,
you're partier.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
like. Absolutely. There's a few, probably about 5 years in my life I don't remember.
Really?
I don't know. Maybe that's by choice. But like, I used to drink so much. And I don't drink as much now, but, because it's hard to be a parent and get up.
I was just going to say that must have changed things.
It's very hard to be hungover with young kids. But because my job... I'm going around, doing shows and stuff, and I don't have my kids with me. I can have a couple beers.
And it's kind of, sort of part of the culture a little bit.
It's
hang back and have a beer.
Having drinks is part of comedy culture for sure.
Big time.
It's part of my life.
Do you know what kind of drunk you are other than blackout?
Yeah. Maybe, I think I...
Emotional, happy,
no, I'm pretty happy.
Angry?
No, I'm pretty happy.
Pretty happy?
Yeah, I don't get angry too often if I'm drinking, and I don't get depressed really. Like it's
that's good.
Like unless something bad happens, you know what
right?
I mean? Like
like
if you're going through like grief or mourning or something, maybe
don't drink.
That's not a good time to be pouring. You think that drinking will be good for it, but it's the worst. It's the worst.
You gotta
worst
drink to feel even better, not better.
That's right. So like if I kill on a stand-up show, I'll want to drink like. The floodgates are open. Like
right. Celebrate.
I want to party all night. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny because like nothing ever catches the high of doing well in stand up. Like you know what I mean? Like
that's what I've heard.
I've
heard that it's such a rush. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's the best. And then so so yeah, like that's I'm a good time. I associate drinking with good times.
Good.
And I have good times when I'm drinking.
Good. So nothing crazy has happened that has destroyed your life or anything. While
Not yet. No.
Good.
I mean, like a lot of crazy stuff has happened, but like you know,
like while traveling, like while touring around, or
yeah. I'm just trying to think. I don't know if there's anything like too wild, but like it's just. I mean, I've been around a lot of parties, so
house parties, huh?
House parties for sure.
Are you a bar guy?
I don't mind going to bars. I like places where you can talk to people though. Like
yeah,
you know what I mean?
like that too.
I don't mind live music though. Like I like seeing live music, but I like being able to talk with people and
I do too.
Stuff too.
I realize I'm getting old when I go to a place and I go, it's too loud in here. I can't hear you.
Yeah,
I'd rather have a conversation.
That's right. Yeah. I'm the same way. So
yeah,
it's I mean, I like going. I like the social aspect of going out to bars.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't been invited to too many house parties lately. But.
I know, right? They're kind of few and far between now. It makes me sad.
Kids are always around.
You got the kids, and you have a wife.
Yep.
Where'd you meet your wife? How did this happen?
I met her through my ex-girlfriend. Actually, like,
really?
They were good friends, and then after that relationship fell apart. Like it was like years later that we got together. So, like she didn't like me when we first met, and then. I'm not sure if she likes me now.
I think she does.
It was really funny because she's a teacher, and she was having parent-teacher night, like where they meet the teacher for the first time. And she said there's at least 3 couples that came in like, we love your husband. He's so funny. And like, I'm not even from that town. So like where she teaches. So like there are people who've like seen my shows and stuff. They're like, we watch him on YouTube. And I'm like, that's so hilarious.
Wow.
Like, you don't never want the blowback coming.
Right.
The blowback that comes from being married to me.
It's like, what you gonna find on
She's
there?
like, uh-oh. Yeah, oh yeah.
Did you date for a long time before you got married?
Yeah, I think we were 5 years we dated. And then after 5 years, if you don't pop the question, you're probably an asshole, boys. So.
That's actually, that's probably a good number.
Yeah, I'd say so.
5's
you
quite
should
a while.
know. At 5, if you don't know.
Did you get, like, kind of, like, was she just like, I want a ring, or?
Trying to think. Oh, I was trying to get her a ring, and I couldn't get the one that she wanted because it was, like, way more expensive than I think she even realized. Like my brother and my sister came with me to get this ring, and we go into this place and there's like armed guards and shit there. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Is this like blood diamonds and shit?
Yeah, it's insane. Rings are crazy
There's like child soldiers working at this place.
Seriously though.
And then I couldn't get it, and so like I was gonna propose around like Christmas time, so I fucking got her a trip like instead, and then she just like started crying because I think she expected that I was gonna propose and I didn't have it, so she was. I'm sorry, Jenna, I shouldn't tell that story, but she like
but
I think
she knew. Women, I think.
She knew like I was going to propose and I just couldn't get the ring in time.
Right,
and
it was a logistics thing.
And then I got the ring, and then. And everything worked out, but then like the ring it had like some like dents in it, and like the place that we got it from were like really like they're real shitheads, and like I had to like basically intimidate them into giving my money back. Like we had to return it because like they kept fucking it up, and it was I'm like, so I ended up getting we got a good ring, and
good,
and it worked out, but it was like it's a stressful thing to deal with, you know what I mean, like to hurt your engagement ring, and like these guys are being assholes. They're like trying to make us feel like we damaged the product when we know
that you did something to it, and it's so much money.
Oh yeah, and they're just such weasels, eh? Some of these jewelers are such little dinks.
I bet.
I've been calling everyone weasels today.
Weasels. Hey, look, that's not an offensive term. I think that's okay.
Yeah. Oh weasels. No, I'm not gonna get canceled for calling anyone.
Are we gonna get? I kind of want to get canceled because it means someone listened.
Someone's gonna cut the clip out where I said jewelers and just cut it down to Jew. These Jews are weasels.
Oh man, it's just so
You're canceled.
It kind of is a scary time. Do you think? Would you use the word scary or more like intimidating?
It is and it isn't. I mean, I think It depends on what you want in your career. Like if you see, like what I'm doing is trying to build my own base and my own thing where no one can take that away from you, right? But even like guys like Andrew Schultz, who has such a big following, you see him getting shadow banned on like Instagram and stuff like that. Like when the big platforms are trying to silence you, that's where it gets dirty.
Yeah.
That's where it gets, that's what concerns me more than these little weenies on Twitter and stuff. When the platform itself has an agenda against those type of voices and wanting to silence them, I mean, that's where it gets scary. I mean, listen, like Alex Jones is a fucking whack job, but like he should still be allowed to say whatever he wants, even if he's a dink.
It's the free speech.
Yeah.
I think you need to understand what free speech is and the fact that it's a good thing that we have it. You're not going to like a lot of the things you hear out there.
These platforms do have their like terms though, so if you are violating their terms, I guess they're within their right to do things, but it's still like, you'd think that like let people decide for themselves. Let the public decide for themselves.
Yeah.
I really think that that's what it is. I think we're all, old enough to decide who we want to follow and who we like and who we agree with. Let's be adults. Let's not be, children about this. And
absolutely. Ding dang. Shadow banning is crazy.
Is that
essentially when people can't find you on Instagram?
They can't find you, so they're typing in his name and then it's not coming up, and then his followers are like telling him about it. I think Joe Rogan was talking about it on his podcast, and then he got unshadow banned.
Really? Because Joe Rogan likes him. This is so fucked up.
It's very
who's at Instagram monitoring this?
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing. Like
that's weird, right? Like so
strange.
Yeah, that's the scary part to me.
Yeah.
When companies are taking those liberties against comedians.
Yeah.
Against comedians. It's not even like a politician that's like dangerous,
Sarah Silverman got in trouble with Instagram.
Yeah.
Because or was it Sarah Silverman or Whitney Cummings? I think they both got in trouble with Instagram, but essentially just like the idea of like nipples on Instagram.
Yeah.
And then there's this whole other thing of like, if you're a big celebrity, you can get away with more.
Yeah, it's true.
Too, which is very unfortunate.
Yeah. It's just a weird time.
Like if two people take pictures of their asshole, one's famous, one isn't.
Yeah.
It'd be an interesting experiment. Who gets taken down first?
Well,
I bet you it's the not famous person.
The famous person's asshole is going to be bleached, so it's going to be more appealing to the public, I think.
Much more good looking. Oh my God.
Some dude's hairy ass on Instagram.
Do you like social media? Like, are you someone who likes doing that whole, like, posting and engaging on there? Or?
I enjoy it. I think it's just a way to get my name out there, but I think it's something that also because I live outside of a major city, I have used that to bridge the gap between, you know what I mean? Like to stay relevant and stay, connected with people. Like if I didn't have this, I wouldn't be anywhere. You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
All these platforms have allowed me to do what I do from a remote area. And that's an important thing for me, personally as a comic. That's been like integral into what I do because everyone said when I moved back up to Bracebridge or Muskoka or that, they're like, you'll never be able to make it in comedy up there. And then I proved them wrong.
There you go.
And I think that's a more interesting story than
I think so too.
Being able to live in your hometown in a small area outside of a city and still be, touring everywhere. And, and like, you have to be established before you could do that, but it's definitely, look at Stanhope. He lives in Bisbee, Arizona. Like he lives in the middle of nowhere. Like lives in such a small town.
Must be something to be said for that. Like just having that kind of home base and that kind of escape to kind of almost recharge in a way.
Yeah, I think so.
And then go out and play all these shows across the country.
Yeah, it's good once you, and again, content is king. So if you're creating good content and releasing it, people can find you. And
that's the joy of podcasts.
Yeah.
So if you enjoy a comedian, I think most comedians should have a podcast.
I think so too. I think they just got to figure out what the niche is for it.
Yeah.
What's the unique hook to your podcast? That's that people are going to find it, because there's a lot of comedians and interviewing
That's
comedians.
very true.
And it just gets
There's tons.
Yeah, and like that was like with my old podcast, it was a really funny group. Like the three of us that did it. It was like, if I was ever famous, I would bring it back, because it was the ultimate like trio of guys that like just had the best chemistry and like the best stories. But we were just interviewing other comedians. I wish that like we had done a little bit more interviewing of like average Joes, or
like people who are a little different from you.
Yeah,
that's always interesting. Getting like kind of someone else's perspective on things.
Yeah, like with fight stories, with the podcast I'm doing now, I find it's awesome because we can, we'll have like a big name on, like we'll have Ken Shamrock, who's the UFC champion back in the day, and like, or we get like I had my buddy's dad on.
Right?
And he used to be a boxer in the UK in the 70s. He never like got famous or anything like that, but he's got a whole bunch of bar fights. And like we hear these stories, and like we had this guy, his name's Pierre Moore, and when we were in Kingston, Ontario, one of our friends is like, it's like, listen, I can do your podcast, and yeah, it'll probably be all right, but like there's this guy you need to get on. His name's Pierre Moore, and he is a fucking legend around here. And I'm like, okay. He's been in over 1,000 street fights, and like he was in jail for like beating up this dude, like he beat up some biker, and like it's just this like wild story. And he starts telling us his story, and it is like the craziest like life story, like what he endured as a kid. Like it's like painful, but then he like finds fighting, and like he's like amateur boxing and like starts street fighting, and then like now he has like a great life with like he's got kids and a wife and really good job. He's like, it's like this ultimate like story of like redemption after all of these things,
all the shit,
and it's like he's absolutely a product of his environment, but he was able to turn it around. But I mean, there's also a guy who, he beat up a lot of people. Everyone you beat up, it affects other people too. So there's like a ripple effect. So you're walking around a small city, and everyone knows you for you beat up one of their friends, or like there's always a target on you kind of thing. But because he is so tough, you know what I mean? Like it's like no one really wants to try him. But I mean, we're getting emails from people that he beat up, and like that weren't happy about the podcast. I mean,
well, let's tell the listeners what your podcast is. So it's Fight Stories.
It's called Fight Stories, and it's exactly what the title is, which is very
that's good. It's straightforward.
You know what you're going to get. And we interview everyone from like professional fighters, pros to average Joes.
I love that.
And it's so we have MMA fighters. Our friend Kyle the Monster Nelson, he's a UFC fighter. He's fighting tonight in Mexico City. So he's fighting in the UFC tonight. He just did it. And then we have NHL enforcers. So we had Colton Orr from the Toronto Maple Leafs, and Darren Kimball, Jim McKenzie, all these guys who've been in like hundreds of hockey fights. And then we get, like my buddy's dad, Bob Rigby, and we just had Vinny Paz, who's the 5-time world champion boxer, like
holy
amazing.
Smokes.
They made a movie about his life on Netflix called Bleed for This. And it's the craziest story about, like, he won the title, and then he got into a car accident and broke his neck, and they said he'd never walk again. They gave him he had a crucifix halo on, so like the skulls, like 4 bolts basically in his head, and then he started training in his parents' basement with Kevin Rooney, who was Mike Tyson's trainer, and they start training under his parents' like nose. They don't even know that he's doing this, and he comes back and wins the title.
Holy shit!
And like he beat Roberto Duran, who's one of the greatest boxers of all time. Vinny Paz is just a wild story.
Holy
if you get a chance, check it out. Bleed for This, but also check out his episode on Fight Stories. It's really good.
And Fight Stories has been going on for how long?
About 2 years. So this is our second season. We put them out. Season 1 is all for free. You can get all free on like iTunes or Apple Podcasts now, and on YouTube, Spotify. Like they're all up there for free. And season 2 as well. So we just started season 2. So we're 3 episodes in, and it's just been really cool. Like we travel around. When we were in Boston, we're doing the comedy club at Nick's Comedy Stop, and there's this guy, James Downing, Jimmy Dime Time is what we call him. He is a younger up and coming comic, but he's training he fights jiu-jitsu, and he's like winning. Like he's winning championships. And he was just telling us about how his dad headbutted him 5 times, and he fought his dad a bunch of times. Or his dad fought him 5 times.
Oh,
or something
shit.
like that. So we're like, oh, well, you got to do the podcast.
Absolutely.
Next thing you know, it's like 1 a.m. We're at one of his friend's house, and we're recording with this guy.
That's amazing.
It's just like we go into a town. We're like, who's the toughest guy in this town? And they're like, they tell you. And then we're like, well, let's get him on the show.
That's so cool.
Everywhere you go, everyone has a fight story.
Well, the thing is, too, and do you find that, especially with podcasts where it's like, like we're all just kind of doing this for fun. But like, do you find that people just genuinely like to have the mic to tell their story? Like they like having that opportunity.
Some of them
right?
are glory hounds, and those are the ones you want to find, because there's a lot of the average Joes. They're my favorite. The guys who they really have nothing to plug. Like like when my buddy's dad's on there, I'm like, what do you what are you plugging? You got anything to plug? I know
social media.
He's not even on the grid. He lives in like a small town in the middle of nowhere. He's like Massey Minor Soccer. I'm the president. Like it's a small town, like population 1,000. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Maybe even less. I don't know. But
yeah.
And then we get these guys that are on. So like a lot of guys like that, they don't really have any reason to come on and like promote.
They're just there to tell the story.
Some of these things that maybe we're beating someone up is like not always a good thing. Yeah. It's so like there's guys that we I've been trying to get on, but they're like hesitant because they don't trust these types of people. Usually aren't on social media.
Right.
These are blue collar, hardworking guys that like. They work their day job. They come home, have a couple beers with their family, and go back to work the next day. They don't give a shit about the internet like all these comics.
Which is actually kind of refreshing.
It's so refreshing because their stories are interesting and like
because they're living actual life.
Yeah, so that's like a Pierre Moore one. Now that one we should make that into a movie, Pierre. I think.
Yes, make that a movie.
There's all these guys that have come on. I just had a prison guard on there. He was in Kingston Penitentiary. He worked there.
He's seen some shit.
His name is Corey McDonald, and he's also from Kingston. Kingston's the toughest town. And
really,
we've pulled the best episodes out of Kingston.
No way.
So many brawlers because it's a city full of like you got prison guards, you got ex-cons that stick around. They all hang out, like stay in Kingston when they get out of jail. You got cops, you got military. College students, hockey players. It's like
pot.
the bar in Star Wars.
Damn, that's a great way to say it.
You want to get into a fight? Go to Kingston. There'll be 10 dudes just lined up to fight you.
Did something inspire this podcast? Whether that be was it just your love for UFC, or was it something that inspired it?
John Moses, my co-host, was talking about he wanted to do a stand-up album called Fight Stories, where it's 2 wins, 2 losses, and a draw, because he'd been in a whole bunch of fights and he has some really funny stories. But I was like, well, what if we did it as a podcast? Because whenever we're hanging out, it's always, we tell stories and we're all laughing, and that's the best when you're telling these stories with your buddies and you're just all, talking about the glory days, and it's always something stupid like that. And I remember from my other podcast, the best episodes were the ones where we got people to tell fight stories. And so it just was this perfect storm. And I mean, we have comedians on it. Comedians are always the best.
Yes.
Our the comics that we've had on, they're some of our 6 out of our top 10 episodes most listened to are comedians.
Oh, they're great talkers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we've had Alex Pavone and Dan Soder, Shane Gillis was on.
Amazing.
All these guys have come in, and Andrew Schultz just did it. Artie Lang. So there's some
unreal.
wicked comics that have done the podcast already. But we mix it up. We don't want to just be UFC. We don't want to just be hockey fights. We don't want to just be comedians.
It's a mixed pot.
And so we try and get that real, every episode, every 4 or 5 there'll be a hockey fighter or whatever, but getting that variety of people. And we like to get women on the podcast.
Yes, because that would be very interesting.
Yeah, John just interviewed one of his friends, and it's I hear it's really good. I haven't heard it yet.
No.
She's gotten a bunch of fights, and even recently, she's
because girl fights are so much
I think she's
different than
39 and she's still fighting.
Damn.
She's got kids. It's
holy shit.
So we love getting those ones. It's hard to it won't. Eventually, we'll get more.
Have you ever been in a fight?
Oh yeah,
many.
Several.
Any story that sticks out for you?
Oh my God, I'm trying to think. What's a good one? There's one, I'll tell it just because it's not me. Because it's okay. My fights, they're not as.
Subscribe to his podcast.
This is a really funny story that we heard. This made us like die laughing when we heard this fight story. There's this guy, his name's Billy, and Billy's at like a hockey tournament. He's like older than, he'd be like maybe a bit younger than my dad. So he's probably in his 50s, I'm guessing. Oh. I think that's how old he is. But anyway, they're at this men's league hockey tournament and they're staying at a hotel, and Billy gets all drunk and he's walking around. He can't find his hotel room. So he's knocking on every door in the hotel, and everyone's like, buddy, like, go away, like, leave us alone. This one guy, he comes, knocks on the door. Billy's like, hey, he's like all fucked up. The guy looks at him. It's like, buddy, this isn't your room. Go away. Comes back. Sure enough, like 5-10 minutes later, Billy's knocking on his door. Guy opens the door. Buddy, this isn't your room. Fuck off. If you come back here again, I'm gonna fucking drop you. Billy comes back again, like 10 minutes later, knocks at the door. The guy just opens the door and just decks him. Like, just drops him. There's a huge commotion or whatever, and everyone's coming out and like breaking it up or whatever. And then the guy just slams his door, like closes his door and goes back to bed or whatever. The next day, they're at in the arena, and one of Billy's teammates like, hey, Billy, that's the guy that fucking decked you last night. That's the guy from the hotel that punched you. He goes, are you fucking serious? He goes, yeah, that's the guy. So he goes and he waits in, like, there's always like in the lobby of like an arena, there's like that like little foyer area where you walk in, like the double doors type thing. Yeah. And so he's waiting in that little foyer area. Is it called a vestibule? I don't know.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but I can't think of the word.
Yeah, like the automatic doors. And so he's waiting in that little area for this guy to come walking in, and he just fucking pounces on the guy. Just starts pounding this guy, has him on the ground, starting up the lawnmower, just bang, bang, bang. And this woman is screaming. She's like, stop, stop. He only has one arm. And Billy looks up at her and he goes, yeah, that's the fucking one he hit me with. And he just starts punching him again. So that's like one of my favorite fight stories.
Wow.
And we love getting stuff like that on the podcast. So
holy shit.
The funnier the better is.
I've never, oh my gosh. I wonder I've never been punched or punched anyone. I wonder what it would feel like.
Yeah, it's not nice. If you know that you're going to fight someone, the adrenaline usually... you don't feel the punches because you're so amped. You're amped up. You're kind of seeing red. The more you fight, and you can control the adrenaline, you might feel a little bit more then. But like when you first get in, I think it takes like 10 fights at least to like kind of start controlling, maybe more than that, just to start, every fight I got in, I got better and like I was more in control of what I was doing. It wasn't just seeing red and just like...
Were these fights that just randomly happened? Like as a result of drinking or whatever?
Yeah, sometimes drinking or just, usually drinking. Now that I think of it, I was kind of an asshole. Yeah, but...
I mean, it fuels a lot. And I do think that like there's something to that fight or flight kind of like you either run or you go forward. And I think I run away,
I usually go forward. I haven't been in a fight in like 12 years probably. I've been really good. Yeah, but there's one that I thought was really funny. Just a move that I did that I didn't mean to do it, but so I was going to fight this guy and he was like talking shit and I don't know, like this is in high school, my last year of high school, and we're at a house party, surprise. And he's like, fucking try me, bud. Fucking try me.
Oh, God.
And I look at him like, oh, I'm not going to have to fucking try. And then I take my beer, and this is my mindset. The reason I did this was I threw my beer in the air as high as I could because I wanted everyone to see that a fight was about to happen. I wanted everyone to pay attention.
Yeah.
But what happened was I threw the beer in the air and he looked up and I just hit him as hard as I could and like broke his glasses. And so it ended up being like kind of a cheap move.
Oh my God.
But I was just doing it to like get everyone's attention. Like in hockey, like the funniest thing in a hockey fight is if you're going to fight a guy, you just throw your gloves as high as you can in the air so the whole arena knows that you're going to like, it's like a showboat jerk move.
Interesting. Was your beer open or was it closed?
It was open, yeah.
So it just like kind of sprayed everywhere?
I think it was a can, and it just went flying.
And then he was looking up and then you punched him?
Yeah, and then I won.
Have you ever gotten into like really bad fights where you're like super injured or?
I hurt my ankle. I rolled my ankle in a fight. I got sucker punched really hard outside the bar, and I was seeing like 3.
Oh shit!
And like I had to like I did okay in that one, but like surprisingly. But like even if you win, it's like after the fight, you're like, did I really win? Like
what's winning?
My hand is broken. I'm limping. I got to go to my shitty day job. Like
you might have some explaining to do.
Yeah, so there is that. But I've been in some crazy ones. But like a guy tried to pull a knife on me in that was the last one that I was in. And
that's terrifying.
Yeah, you go into a different mode there. Like when if you're fighting someone and it's like a straight up fist fight, that's cool, like that's honorable. But then you see a weapon start coming out, and it's like now you go into an extra like defensive mode where you're trying to like you have to neutralize this person as quick as possible.
Yes, because they have something that could kill you.
Yeah, and this guy wasn't very smart because it's in Canada in the winter, and he's wearing a puffy winter jacket.
Yeah,
you don't fight a guy with a puffy winter jacket. He had like a hood. I just jerseyed him, and he couldn't see. And then I'm just punching him from like way up here, like doing windmills. It was so cartoonish.
That does sound like a cartoon.
It was really cartoonish. Like one of my friends was there. He's like, I've never seen anyone have that much time to do exactly what they wanted to in a fight.
Oh my god!
But it's because he's had a winter coat on. Like, take your jacket off if you're gonna try and stab someone.
Really though, holy shit!
So that's fight tip 101.
Fight tips.
You don't like having a hood if you're gonna fight.
Don't wear a jacket.
Yeah.
What other fight tips are there?
Don't wear a hood. Keep your chin tucked is number 1. You don't want to stick your chin out. You get clipped.
Because a punch to the throat, I bet you that would be.
Well, you're not really worried about a throat punch. Just if your chin is exposed, that's where they can knock you out. So that's why you see boxers tuck their chin, and a guy that can keep his chin tucked won't get knocked out as easy.
Interesting.
So really good fighters tuck their chins.
Tuck the chin.
Mm-hmm. Watch, if you're a hockey fighter, watch Ben Wilson, Behn Wilson. He's an old school fighter, and no one really talks about this guy, but he was one of the best fighters ever in the NHL, and he always tuck his chin like a boxer. And
really?
He'd never been knocked out. He was never knocked out.
It's still crazy to me that there's so many fights in hockey.
There isn't anymore, though. They really neutered the game. I can't even watch hockey. It's not the same.
It's not as fun.
It sucks. Hockey sucks now. I can't even watch it.
Well, like, I don't really get why there's fights in any sport. Like, aren't you there to play a sport, not fight?
No, hockey, there's a reason, because it gets out of control if you don't have someone checking someone in. Like what happens is people get a little bit liberal with their sticks, or they can target your star player. But if there's a guy on the ice that might just beat you up at any moment, you play a little bit more respectful.
Right. And okay.
And it's all about kind of like policing the game yourself. You know what I mean? Because guys, they'll figure out a way to get your star player. And anyone who's ever been against hockey fights that don't like it, they've never played on a team where they didn't have a tough guy, or where their team got bullied by other teams. I was on a team that everyone on our team was just a bunch of pussies. And we got steamrolled and beat up every night, and it was like the most stressful thing ever. Like, hockey is not fun if you don't have a couple tough guys. It's a rough game. It's a rough game.
No, I bet.
And then, so that was
that. And there's like, it just always freaks me out that there's skates with blades.
Yeah.
Being thrown into the mix. That terrifies me.
Yeah, it's a little wild.
That's scary.
It is.
That's insane. Like, can you imagine getting a skate to the face?
Oh, fuck. There's a goalie, Clint Malarchuk, took a skate to the neck and almost died. It's on YouTube if you want to see something really gross.
Holy fuck.
Mm-hmm. It is like the scariest thing I've ever seen in hockey. It was terrifying. Like, he almost died.
I always think about that when I see like figure skating or hockey or anything. Like, I'm just like, it just seems too easy for someone to die.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
surprised that there hasn't been more on ice deaths, just because of the speed and the velocity and all the sticks and skates and all that. But I mean, it used to be a lot more fun.
It used to be a lot more fun.
Everyone's a businessman now.
Yeah,
it's all about the money. It used to be for pride. It's all for money now.
All for money.
Hey,
fuck. But I do like money. So
yeah. Hey. Get it while you can, lads.
Get it while you can. Yeah, for real. But we're gonna wrap.
Sure.
Because you have a show to get to.
That's true.
I don't want to keep you too long. But oh my gosh, Tyler, thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me. This is great.
This was a lot of fun. Tell everybody where they can find everything. So Fight
Stories.
Fight Stories.
Get it on YouTube. Go and subscribe there, and Apple Music, all your typical platforms where you would find podcasts. It should be on all of them.
Yes.
And then tylermorrison.ca has all my live dates.
Oh, nice.
And on Twitter, Tyler Morrison 1.
Check him out live because he's fantastic.
Thank you.
Like, I love it.
Oh, thank you.
I love it.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's great. So follow him everywhere. And thanks so much for listening, guys. And Tyler, you get to do the honors.
What's that?
You get to ring the bell to close it out. That means we're done. You survived another episode. That's amazing. You should reward yourself by following Intoxicated on social media, Facebook and Instagram at Intoxicated Podcast, and on Twitter at @in_toxicated, on YouTube at youtube.com/intoxicated. And if you really liked the episode, you can leave an iTunes rating or review. That is extremely helpful and appreciated. Thanks again for listening, guys, and talk to you next week.